हेलो एभ्रिवान नमस्कार ओरेटर्स हाउस बुटोलको नियमित छलफल श्रृङ्खला अन्तर्गत 37औं सेसनमा म आजको कार्यक्रमको सहजकर्ता सञ्जय सिंह केसी यहाँहरूलाई हार्दिक स्वागत गर्दछु। ओरेटर्स हाउस बुटोलको आयोजना थिङ्क एन्ड ग्रो एजुकेसन बुटोलको प्रस्तुति नेक्स्ट एजुकेसन कन्सल्टेन्सी बुटोल एजुकेसन पार्टनरको रूपमा रहेको र तत्त्व सोल्युसन सहयोगी संस्थाको रूपमा रहेको यो छलफल श्रृङ्खलामा पोसिबल फाउन्डेसनको प्राविधिक सहयोग रहेको छ। Like every week, we have brought up a new topic at Orators House Butwal, which is the art of communication for today. Communication is said to be a work of art. We have all been mesmerized by the amazing delivery of a keynote speaker or wondered how the MC is able to keep the audience in splits or be overwhelmed by that confident team member who, at the drop of a hat, is able to bring forth the salient features of the presentation to clients. Yes, we all have been impressed by those gifted in the art of communication, and at the same time, mocked those who aren't. So, what makes some people successful in communicating with confidence while leaving some people completely tongue tied? To know more about it, we have invited a guest who has been there and done that. On this note, I would like to introduce our guest for the day, Ms. Mannsi Agrawal. Mannsi Agrawal is an international corporate trainer and transformational speaker based in Kathmandu, Nepal. She has over 11 years of experience in training students and professionals. Her clients include over 11 reputed organizations, including Chaudhary Group, WWF Nepal, Sipradeep Trading Private Limited, WorldLink, Ansel, 4 national banks, including Siddhartha Bank, Nepal SBI, Civil Bank, Everest Bank, and 17 colleges. She has also trained government officers, armed police officers, chartered accountants, doctors, and dentists. She has made motivational speeches in many platforms, including the Nepalese Young Entrepreneurs Forum, Youth Empowerment Seminar for Women, Word Wings, American Embassy Women's Day Program, American Embassy Pokhara Research Center Program, and Storytellers. An entrepreneur, TEDx speaker, talk series host, columnist, trainer, and also the chartered president of Himalaya Toastmasters Club. She is a lady with a lot of feathers under her hat. Lately known all around for the 7 reasons why you should not visit Nepal video on the internet, and then more inspiring as well as motivating videos to follow. It is our pleasure to have Ms. Mannsi Agrawal at Orators House Butwal today. On this note, I would like to take this pleasure of welcoming Ms. Mannsi Agrawal at Orators House Butwal. हाम्रो कार्यक्रमको पहिलो चरणमा she will be having around 5 to 10 minutes where she will be expressing her monologue on the topic the art of communication for today. And I would like to welcome Ms. Mannsi Agrawal at Orators House Butwal. The floor is yours, Mannsi ji. Welcome to Orators House Butwal.
Thank you so much, Sanjay ji. It's a big pleasure for me to be here as well. Thank you for all those wonderful things you said about me. And yes, as strange as it may sound, people do know me now suddenly as the person who made that crazy video that went viral. So thank you so much for that, Sanjay ji. I'm really happy to be here. On that note, I'm going to begin my monologue about communication, right? So, according to me, communication is one of the most important and vital things that we as people learn how to do. Communication is not just about how we speak, communication is not just about how we express our thoughts, but communication really is about how we live. We start communicating not when we learn how to speak, but we are communicating even before that. My son communicated with me maybe for the first time when he was 3 or 4 days old. He told me he was hungry. How? By crying. So communication doesn't necessarily mean communicating with words, with your voice. There are many different kinds of communication. As a communications coach, it is my duty and it is what I do. I basically help people to understand what is communication, how they can communicate more effectively, and how communication can play a major role in every part of their lives. Communication is important not just when we are working professionals. Communication is important not just when we're speaking to our families and our friends. Communication with ourselves is equally important as well. So when I study communication, I study it sort of as an all-round approach. And I try to understand this 360-degree approach to communication because I realize that communication is vital in every sphere, in every aspect of life. It helps us to express ourselves, avoid miscommunication, make a good impression on people, influence people, impact people, and also it helps us have stronger relationships with people around us. To me personally, that is something that's really, really important. Another thing, of course, is communication with ourselves. So the words we use to talk to ourselves also has a major impact on the way we feel, the way we think, and the way we ultimately act and take our lives forward. The questions we ask ourselves also have a huge impact on the way we think. The questions also really make a lot of difference in the way we're able to control our emotions and in the way we are able to steer or pivot our emotions at all times. So for me, understanding of communication is sort of understanding each of these aspects together. Personally, for me, I think one of the most powerful communication methods or one of the most powerful studies in the study of communication is the study of public speaking. As a public speaker, as a paid professional public speaker, what I find extremely amazing is the ability to be able to impact a large number of people at a single point of time just by using your words and your thoughts. So for me, again, communication is big. Now, what exactly is communication? Communication is expressing yourself, is about sharing what you feel, what you think, how you behave, all of that. And communication is not just with words, it also happens with the way you speak, the way you express yourself, the way you stand. Let's say if I just did this to you and I didn't say anything at all, even without saying a word, you would have a certain impression, or you would feel that I was thinking in a certain way just because of my body language. And really, that is the power of communication. Now, my other thing is, why is communication important? You see, I know of many people who are extremely well read, who've gone to good colleges, been to good schools, and yet, when they start working, they find that although they've got a great degree or they've got a mark sheet with A plus grades or whatever it is, they are not really able to make the kind of impact, or they are not really able to reach the height that they want in their career. This might be because they're not sure about how they communicate with their team members. They're not sure about how they're communicating with their clients. They may not really know how to work as a group. They may not be able to motivate themselves when they need it. Whatever it is, for a gamut of reasons, many people are not able to achieve the kind of success that their mark sheets say that they will. And very often, when I speak to these people, I understand it could be a problem of communication, wherein they're not able to communicate with others, with their team members, and with themselves. So, as a communications coach, as a corporate trainer, these are two things I do. Number one, I help organizations of all types, of all scales, understand exactly who the people are within their organization that need to communicate with the outside world. And then I give them specific training which helps them communicate better. So if somebody is looking into customer service, I help them communicate better with their customers. I help them design customer service protocols that are going to make it easy for them to be able to make a good impression on their customers. If they need to speak to clients, exactly how they need to communicate so that the client understands and is on board with whatever they're trying to say. I also work with very high level individuals. So when I say that, I mean I work with celebrities, beauty pageant winners, a lot of doctors, a lot of trainers who are training in different fields. And I really help them understand in one on one kind of conversations how they must communicate in a way that they're able to get their subordinates or their team members to perform better. So, as a communications coach, I really put in a lot of effort into understanding other people and their communication needs, and I customize plans so that they can communicate better. So, as far as communication is concerned, this is what I have to say. I can't think of a single field or a single person who doesn't need to learn the art of communication. Because the moment you understand the art of communication, you're able to express yourself in a way that makes sense and in a way that you're able to really impact and influence others. And that is what most people are looking at doing, even with the way they work. So I think communication is extremely important. I also feel that communication is the one thing, it's like the secret sauce. If you're doing really well, technically you might have all the best skills. But let's say you're not sure and you don't really communicate well enough with people around you, maybe with your clients, maybe with your own team, maybe with yourself. chances are that your success will not be as per your potential. That's because you're unable to express whatever it is that you have inside of you in the right way, in the way that it's going to be taken well. So it's extremely important to learn and to master this art of communication if you want to be successful in whatever it is that you really choose to do.
Thank you so much, Mannsi. That was a very power-packed presentation and insight on the art of communication. As you already said communication is a very important part of everyone's personal as well as professional lives. And we most of us we know that there's a very popular saying in Nepali which says that बोल्नेको पिठो पनि दिक्छ नबोल्नेको चामल पनि दिक्दैन. So that's how it goes. Communication is very important, very extremely important हाम्रो सम्बन्ध बनाउनको लागि, हाम्रो डेली जीवनमा विभिन्न परिस्थितिमा प्रोफेसनल लाइफमा पनि कम्युनिकेसनको उत्तिकै महत्त्व हुन्छ. र आई थिङ्क हाम्रो आजको यो कार्यक्रमको पनि उद्देश्य यही छ कि हाम्रो भ्युवर्सहरूले, हाम्रो मोस्ट अफ द यङ people who watch us, who follow us, and our members of Orators Hospital, they get benefited from this session. हाम्रो मानसिकजीको एक्सपिरियन्स अनुसार उहाँले आर्ट अफ कम्युनिकेसन सम्बन्धमा हामी उहाँले जुन कुरा राख्नुभएको छ उहाँहरूको कुरा सुनेर हाम्रो थप यसमा अब अगाडि जति कुराहरू गर्छौँ त्यो आई थिङ्क इट विल बी भेरी बेनिफिसियल फर अल आवर भ्युवर्स. हामी गोइङ ब्याक टु द सेकेन्ड हामी चरणमा हामी अगाडि जान चाहन्छु. अब दोस्रो चरणमा हामी यो सेसनलाई हामी थप अन्तर्क्रियामा हामी जान्छौँ. पहिलो प्रश्न आई थिङ्क यो धेरै क्लिसेको रूपमा पनि रहिसकेको छ. आई थिङ्क दिस क्वेसन हेज बिन आस्क्ड मेनी टाइम्स एन्ड यु हेभ आन्सर्ड इट मेनी टाइम्स. अहिलेको धेरै यो चर्चित भिडियो जुन रहेको छ 7 रिजन्स वाइ नट टु भिजिट नेपाल भन्ने भिडियोबाट धेरै चर्चामा आउनुभएको थियो मानसीजी. अनि आई वुड लाइक टु आस्क, टकिङ अबाउट द भिडियो विच स्प्रेड अप लाइक वाइल्ड फायर अन द इन्टरनेट, हाउ डिड द 7 रिजन्स सिरिज ह्यापन?
Oh, this is really strange because I never thought that this would be a series. I never thought it would spread like wildfire. I just did it because I wanted to invite my friends. Okay? अनि हाम्रो एउटा मेरो दुईटा दाइ भाइलाई पनि अनि मेरो एउटा ग्रुप छ साथीहरूको, हामी 6 वटा केटी छौँ. अनि I really wanted them to come to Nepal. And म 13 वर्षदेखि बोलिरहेको छु आऊ आऊ काठमाडौँ आउनुपर्छ, राम्रो छ. But they never actually happened to come. And so for me, after a point, I just got frustrated, you know. अनि किन आएन, किनकि अब 6 वटा केटी होइन, कुनै वर्ष कसैको बिहा भइरहेछ, कसैको बच्चा भयो, कसैको जब चेन्ज भयो. So we were all sort of busy in some different aspect of our lives. अनि हाम्रो प्लान यो थियो, either all 6 will go or no one will go. So it just never happened, right? This year I made them all promise that you all are going to come. तर कोभिड भयो. So again त्यसले गर्दा पनि भएन. And म यति फ्रस्ट्रेट भइसकेको थिएँ. I told them, don't come to Nepal. Never ever visit Nepal. And to tell them to never ever visit Nepal, I made a video. Coincidentally, त्यो video यो तरिकाले viral गयो that I never knew that there was so much of a need and people would be so interested in videos like this. मलाई थाहा थिएन. I just made it because त्यो साथीहरूलाई एक तरिकाले जिस्काउनको लागि अनि एक तरिकाले त्यो हुन्छ नि in a way to sort of irritate them and motivate them to come in a subconscious way, in a different way. त्यो कारणले मैले बनाएको थिएँ. त्यसपछि यो भिडियो यति भाइरल गएपछि I was like, oh my god, maybe this is a series that might work. त्यसपछि I made 3 things to never ever eat in Nepal. Then I made 1 thing I hate about Tihar in Nepal in 2020. Then I made 4 reasons to never ever visit Bhaktapur. So this series will sort of continue. These kind of things will happen. I am looking at getting certain different ideas. तर यस्तो खालको चल्छ अलि for a while. Yeah.
एकदमै यो भिडियो जसरी एकदमै भाइरल भएको थियो यसले अवश्य पनि नेपालको टुरिज्मलाई पनि धेरै नै हेल्प गरेको. र इनफ्याक्ट जसरी त्यो नेगेटिभ रूपमा त्यो टाइटल रहेको थियो, धेरैजना नेपालीहरू, धेरैजना भ्युवर्सहरू दे वर कन्फ्युज इन द बिगिनिङ. अनि सायद त्यो आई थिङ्क त्यो जुन नेगेटिभ टाइटल थियो त्यस कारणले गर्दाखेरि पनि पिपल जस्ट कट अप विथ द भिडियो एन्ड इट डिड वेल. अनि त्यसले गर्दाखेरि पनि आई थिङ्क इट वाज भेरी हेल्पफुल. अनि जुन सिरिज यहाँले गरिराख्नु भएको छ त्यो जुन भिडियोहरू त्यसले फलो गरेको छ अहिले पछि अरू पनि भिडियोहरू आएको छ भक्तपुरको सन्दर्भमा. एन्ड आई थिङ्क दे आर अल अमेजिङ एन्ड वाट यु आर डुइङ फर द प्रमोसन अफ टुरिज्म इन नेपाल इज इक्वली भेरी ग्रेट. अर्को क्वेसनमा म जान चाहन्छु. मोस्ट अफ द यङ्स्टर्स एन्ड इन जनरल अल पिपल दे फेस अ प्रब्लम वाइल स्पिकिङ अप टु अ क्राउड or on stage or anywhere in public because of which they lag behind in their personal as well as their professional life. अब यो सन्दर्भमा भनिसक्नु भएन, अघि पनि यहाँले हाम्रो पर्सनल लाइफमा प्रोफेसनल लाइफमा जरुरी छ कम्युनिकेसन भन्ने कुरा हामी सबैलाई थाहा छ नि। कुनै पनि एउटा साधारण सम्बन्ध साथी बनाउनदेखि लिएर कुनै अफिसमा हामी काम गर्दाखेरि लिएर मेबी वी अपियर फर एन इन्टरभ्यू, जहाँ पनि हामीलाई कम्युनिकेसन स्किल्स इज इम्पोर्टेन्ट। केही मेबी वी हेभ टु सेल अ प्रडक्ट, कहीँ पनि इन एभ्री फेज अफ लाइफ communication is important. So what would your suggestion be to all those people so that they can improve in this aspect?
Okay, simple question back. Okay, I'm going to give a question instead of a question. Paras Khadka, when he plays cricket, let's say, does he feel scared?
No, he doesn't.
No, because that's what his job is, that's what he does, right? Let's say when Priyanka Karki goes in front of the camera and they say like start or shoot or whatever they say, action. Does she feel scared? No, because that's her job. She's trained to do that. She has worked towards that. Why do people think that communication skills are going to be any different? Paras Khadka lai camera ko agadi rakhyo bhane he might be scared. Priyanka Karki lai cricket khelauna lagayo bhane she might be scared. Why? That's not their field. That's not something that they do normally, right? If you tell me to do bungee jumping tomorrow, I am going to be super duper scared. If you tell me tomorrow to hike up to something, I will be scared because that's not what I do, right? Communication is also exactly like that. It's a question of practice. It's a question of developing a muscle memory, and making that a part of you. So when I communicate well, that's because I communicate and I practice all the time. I've been doing this for many years. Tyo mero kaam hai bhayo, tyo mero job hai cha. I communicate well because this is what I do. If you want to be a good communicator, put in the number of hours of communication that I put in, and you'll be equally good. There is nothing extra that I have or that somebody else has that you don't have. मान्छे के बुझ्छ हैन? आज मलाई केही थाहा छ, भोलि गएर स्टेजमा बोलिदिनु पर्यो, and I should be as good as this XYZ person or as good as ABC. It's not like that. To become whoever they have become, to become excellent communicators, उहाँहरूले पनि धेरै वर्षको मेहनत गरेका छ. So you have to be willing to put in that work. The problem with communication is फर्स्ट स्टेप लिनै डर लाग्छ, स्टेजमा फर्स्ट चोटि जानै डर लाग्छ हैन. सो त्यो विशियस साइकल भयो नि एक तरिकाले. फर्स्ट चोटि जान डर लाग्छ, त्यो भएर there's no experience, therefore you feel scared again. So you're basically caught in this kind of a trap. तर एकचोटि त्यो करेज गरेर, हिम्मत बढाएर त्यो साइकललाई कट गर्यो भरे, you actually put in the effort and you actually go and speak once and you do a great job. That way you will just be motivated to do better and better and better. And you have to understand this is a question of practice. You might say, people come and tell me, oh Mannsi, you speak so well. Well, that's because that's my job. I can't tell a dentist, oh, tapai to kati ramro surgery garna sakनुहुन्छ. I wish I could do it as well as you. Of course I can't. I'm not trained for it. That's not something I know how to do. So for everyone who wants to be a good communicator, म यो मात्र भन्छु, practice by कुनै तरिका छैन हैन. प्र्याक्टिस बाहेक कुनै तरिका छैन, प्र्याक्टिस गर्नुपर्छ. आजको यो मेरो तेस्रो सेसन हो हैन, दिउँसो भइरहेछ तर आजको यो नम्बर 3 हो, अनि एउटा यसपछि एउटा नम्बर 4 पनि छ बङ्गलादेशमा, right? So if in a day if I'm doing 4 sessions and there's somebody else who's doing 4 sessions in a year, their level of practice and my level of practice will be different, which is why there might be a difference in the kind of communication that happens. So we need to understand that communication about public speaking ultimately boils down to practice. It's like any other skill. Right? You have to actually jump into the river to learn how to swim. युट्युबमा हेरेर हैन, मलाई गाडी चलाउन आउँदैन, हेर्नु अनेस्ट कुरा हो, मलाई चलाउन आउँदैन हैन, तर युट्युबमा एउटा भिडियो हेर्छु यस्तो यस्तो गरेर गाडी चलाउने हो, ल भोलि गएर म नगरकोट त पुग्न सक्दिन नि. I have to practice, I have to put in that work, which is why I always tell everybody public speaking is like that. It is about practice. Practice त गर्नै पर्छ, अप्सन छैन. If you want to be a good communicator, you have to practice. Of course, it would help if you have technical skills, if you have technical knowledge. If somebody tells you how to go about that practice, तपाईको जुन लर्निङ कर्भ छ त्यो अलि स्टिप हुन्छ, you might learn faster, तर प्र्याक्टिस त गर्नै पर्यो, त्यसमा कुनै अप्सनै छैन. You don't really have too much of a choice around that.
I myself remember my first day on stage, त्यो भानु जयन्तीको दिन थियो. I had to recite a poem and it was on Bhanu Bhakta Acharya himself. And I remember त्यो दिनमा I couldn't feel my legs at all. म खुट्टा नै मैले फिल गर्न सकेको थिएन कि त्यतिखेर स्टेजमा. When I climbed up on the stage, मैले त्यो मेरो खुट्टा नै मलाई फिल भइरहेको थिएन. And इट जस्ट वेन्ट अन फ्रम द्याट. तर त्यो दिन पनि मलाई याद छ, मैले अरूलाई नै भन्ने गरेको छु, त्यो मैले धेरै हिम्मत गरेर, आई थिङ्क आई वाज इन क्लास 7 एट द्याट टाइम, अनि मैले धेरै हिम्मत गरेर म त्यो स्टेजमा क्लाइम्ब गरेर भानुभक्तको बारेमा एउटा कविता मैले वाचन गरेको थिएँ. द्याट वाज माई फर्स्ट एक्सपिरियन्स, होइन. हजुर, त्यसै क्रममा म अर्को प्रश्नमा जान चाहन्छु. अब जस्तै कम्युनिकेसन इज अ टु वे प्रोसेस भनिन्छ. एउटा एउटा हामीले वान वेमा कम्युनिकेसन गर्ने मान्छे मानव न फर इक्जाम्पल बोलिरहेको हुन्छ भने अर्कोतिरबाट लिसनर अर्थात् लिसनिङको प्रोसेस इज इक्वली इम्पोर्टेन्ट. सो यहाँको विचारमा हाउ इम्पोर्टेन्ट इज इट टु बी अ गुड लिसनर टु बी अ ग्रेट कम्युनिकेटर बन्नको लागि एउटा कम्युनिकेसन प्रोसेसमा हाउ इम्पोर्टेन्ट इज द प्रोसेस अफ लिसनिङ?
So I'm going to tell you something, right? Communication is not just about words, right? There is more to it than words. There is meanings, there's implications, there's expressions, there's voice. There are so many different ways to actually communicate properly, right? Ani, let me just give you a small example. धेरै वर्ष अगाडिको कुरा छ. एकचोटि my husband, he came and he told me, you know what? Sushil Koirala is the new prime minister. होइन, एकदम excited, like, you know what? Sushil Koirala is the new prime minister. ठिक छ, कुरा सक्यो. बेलुका दिउँसो अफिसमा गएको अनि अफिसमा one person like, you know what? Sushil Koirala is the new prime minister. अब actually हेर्दाखेरि the words were the same. You know what? Sushil Koirala is our new prime minister. The same 9 words. तर the बोल्ने तरिका इतनी फरक थियो. The way they spoke, the meaning, the expression, the exasperation, everything was so different that immediately I understood, because I'm a good listener and I was paying attention to everything. I understood that one person meant something and one person meant something else. Ek jana definitely pro-Congress, ek jana definitely not pro-Congress, right? Yes. So your communication and the way you listen, even your listening skills, makes a lot of difference. Listening is also important because it's not just important to take in information. You actually have to listen to it so that you are able to give proper feedback, right? The only reason I'm able to actually answer your questions is because I'm listening to you and then I'm giving you feedback in the form of my answers. If I was not listening to you, our communication cycle would never be complete. See, communication is a cycle. I speak, you listen, you process, you give feedback, I speak again, right? This is a cycle. Now, let's say listening must stop, sir. The cycle will not continue. So basically, communication is disrupted if one person is a good speaker, but the other one is not a good listener, which is why when I do my coaching and when I do my training, I sometimes, not always, sometimes when I'm talking especially about customer service, I stress a lot on being a good listener. And I make people play these 2 games and they always lose these games because the rules of the games are such that you pretty much cannot win unless you've played the game before. Right? And then people are like, oh my God, But then they also realize that we think we're listening. तर हामी चाहिँ active listening गर्छौं कि गर्दैनौं, that is something we really have to see and we have to sort of analyze properly. किनकि just hearing words is not listening. You have to absorb it and you have to think about it. You have to put your mental and headspace into that. त्यो तरिकाले मात्र listen गर्न सकिन्छ. Hearing is different. के भइराछ सुनिराछ. Listening is to actually put in conscious thought into that. And that is extremely important for the communication cycle to be complete. If you're not a good listener, you are not a good communicator overall. Because you are not able to reply in the right way and your communication will get disrupted.
Truly. त्यसै गरी यो internet has changed the entire scene actually in terms of communication. Has the development of the internet and social media caused a change in the way we communicate? Quality, quantity, style को कुरामा जसरी अहिले हामी पनि we are using the internet to communicate. नेपालको 2 ठाउँमा अलग-अलग भिन्न ठाउँमा छौं and we are communicating, and this has been a boon, maybe equally a bane as well. So how can we use our social media को नि advantage र disadvantage आफ्नो ठाउँमा होला, त्यो keeping it aside, यो जस्तै सोशल मिडियामा हामीले कम्युनिकेट गर्ने अथवा यो इन्टरनेटले हामीले जसरी युज गर्छौं टु कम्युनिकेट, सो यसले यो टोटल कम्युनिकेसनको सिनलाई चेन्ज गरिदिएको छ. यसलाई मेबी हाउ क्यान वी युज इट इफेक्टिभली?
Okay, so I just remember this one silly thing. पहिला हैन, so I'm talking about 2004, 5, 4, 2003-4 को कुरा. I had a cell phone हैन, अनि हाम्रो सेल फोनमा SMS को 2 rupees जान्थ्यो. I was in India at that time. एक SMS को 2 रुपैयाँ लाग्थ्यो. That was very expensive at that point for me. I was a student. अनि हामी एसएमएस पनि होइन त्यो सानो लेख्ने कि CALL नलेख्ने CL कल राइट यु
Yeah.
आर त्यस्तो त्यस्तो त्यो तरिकाले लेख्ने होइन सो वाट वी रियलाइज वाज द्याट वी वर trying to communicate in short forms and as short as we could make it, right? And that was the way that we were communicating. Slowly, the next generation. So I'm already one generation old with the internet. Even the next generation after me, they have also become extremely conscious. Paila hamro videos used to be 20 minutes long, and we used to like watching that kind of stuff. You know, nowadays people are on TikTok. TikTok is what, 15 seconds? And so the whole method and the whole thought process and the mindset behind communication is to give your message in a shorter span of time, to make it chunks of information because the attention span of the average human has also gone down. So, hamro attention paila hai na. When we were studying in school, thank God, my class 10 ma hunda keri phones thiyena ke. Mero to at least phone thiyena. I was not allowed to have a phone. Class 12 ma I tetikira I had a phone. The school ma we were not allowed to take it. Matra ghar ma thiyo because I had a lot of extra classes, right? तर इन्टरनेट थिएन केही थिएन फोनमा सो फर मी इफ आई वान्टेड टु फोकस अन वान पिस अफ स्टडी मटेरियल आई कुड फोकस फर हाफ एन आवर विदाउट एनी प्रब्लम आजको दिनमा I can guarantee that many students are not able to do that because they're so used to that ting, 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 ting awaj. Even when we're working on the computer, right now I'm talking to you, but I've got 2 more tabs open on my own computer. What does that mean? That if there's a notification, I at least see what's happening. Our attention span is so disturbed that for people like me who are also content creators now, there is a big challenge, and we have to create content which is shorter in length yet gives the same kind of information. So for me, I have grown up in a culture where 12 से शब्द लेख्यो भने मार्क्स बेसी पाउने हो हैन 8 से लेख्यो भने थोरै कम मार्क्स पाउँछ एक्जाममा 32 शीट्स लेख्यो भने भेरी गुड 25 शीट्स लेख्यो भने ओके त्यस्तो खालको कल्चरमा म पनि हुर्केको हैन वी थॉट धेरै लेख्नु पर्छ मार्क्स धेरै आउँछ त्यो पनि हुन्थ्यो तर आजको दिनमा इट्स जस्ट द अपोजिट माय ब्रदर इज अ कपीराइटर इन बम्बे एन्ड हिज one of his major things is ठुलो मेसेजलाई सानो तरिका कसरी गरेर क्लाइन्टलाई बुझाउने in 3 words 4 words how to express themselves so I think that is one of the major changes qualitatively that is coming in style into communication quantitative I think we are communicating more than ever before as a species we're going tuck, 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 communicating with everybody all the time known people unknown people neighbors people who stay in different countries people who are just like us people who are nothing like us so that way yes I think it's a great opportunity because earlier we were bound by geography and our geography told us the boundaries of our lives today my only boundary is this planet right? My only boundary is this planet. In this planet is my life. But paila kya huntyo? My boundary was smaller. Our boundaries have become bigger. Our geographies no longer split us. And the melting pot, paila ko zamana ma melting pot bhanera jun huntyo ni. A melting pot is a place where people come together and they melt, they learn from one another. Universities were great melting pots. Certain restaurants could be a great melting spot. A club could be a great melting spot. Aajko dinma, the internet is the best melting pot. It is where everyone is. Everyone is communicating. Everyone is talking. Everyone is sharing information. So sharing ko ani communication has happened more than ever before online, less than ever before offline. Style is becoming from long form to short form. Attention span is becoming from more to less. So for a lot of people, like मेरो पनि हैन मैले त्यो भिडियो बनाए 7 reasons to never ever visit Nepal. That was 7 minutes and 32 seconds I think. त्यो भिडियो पछि my only attempt in life has been to make 4-minute videos. I'm not able to. मेरो त्यो स्टाइलै छैन मलाई एकदमै गाह्रो हुन्छ everyone's like no 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 सानो 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 बनाउनु पर्छ सानो सानो go on TikTok I'm like I'm not a TikTok kind of person at all मेरो fake profile छ TikTok मा हैन मेरो आफ्नो छैन तर a lot of my clips have been on TikTok and my husband gets them in his WhatsApp all the time त्यो हो तर I'm not on TikTok तर that's not my style as a communicator I like to use descriptive words I like to describe emotions I like to talk about all of that त्यो हो तर it is a challenge for a person like me to create content that is shorter because the attention span has become shorter. And for anyone now who needs to be able to sell or to work with the younger generation, they need to understand their style of communication and cater to that.
And that's why I said internet is as much as a bane as it is a boon अहिलेमा जति त्यो एउटा आशीर्वादको रूपमा लिन सक्छौँ त्यति नै त्यो अभिशापको रूपमा पनि इन्टरनेट रहेको छ र त्यसलाई हामीले कसरी युज गर्छौँ कम्युनिकेसनको फिल्डमा पनि कम्युनिकेसनको लागि पनि हामीले कसरी इफेक्टिभली इन्टरनेटलाई युज गर्न सक्छौँ भन्ने कुरा नै हामीमा डिपेन्ड गर्छ त्यो। त्यसै गरी अर्को क्वेसन, एज यु हेभ अलरेडी मेन्सन इन द बिगिनिङ कि आर्ट अफ कम्युनिकेसनको एउटा इम्पोर्टेन्ट एस्पेक्ट भनेको पब्लिक स्पिकिङ भयो, एउटा एउटा पार्ट भनेको पब्लिक स्पिकिङ इज वान पार्ट अफ कम्युनिकेसन। पब्लिक स्पिकिङमा फेसियल एक्सप्रेसन्स, जेस्चर्सहरू, पजेसहरूको कुराहरू आउँछ कम्युनिकेसनमा। सो विच डु यु थिङ्क इज द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेन्ट, अर आर अल अफ दिज इक्वली इम्पोर्टेन्ट, के लाग्छ हजुरलाई?
I want to choose the diplomatic answer here and say all of them are equally important. Not equally, but yes, I think for me, facial expressions are very important. For me to have a face that is expressive, that actually makes the other person feel like you mean what you say, that's really important for me. So that's something that's very important. Of course, gestures, I think, really add a lot to the way you speak, really add and can potentially enhance the message that you're trying to say. There are voice modality, voice modulation, expression, so very important, sir. So I would be lying if I said that no, this is more important or that's more. I'm just going to play it safe, and I think everything is really important. And one of the things that I do is I really study body language. I really study vocal variety. I really study, and I teach a lot of these things. So when I'm doing this, when I'm training people, let's say to appear for interviews, or when I'm training people, let's say to appear for talks in the media, I work a lot on their body language, and I really help them enhance the way they speak, not just what they say, but even how they say it. That's really, really important. Yeah.
यसैको कन्टेक्स्टमा म अर्को अलिकति क्वेसनमा जान चाहन्छु कि मोस्ट अफ द भ्युवर्स हु हेभ बिन वाचिङ अस, आई थिङ्क दे मोस्ट अफ देम आर, or most of them who are engaged with us are known as the millennial generation, born after the 2000 era भनौँ न, अहिले 19-20 वर्षका युवाहरू। अब त्यसको अलावा पछि अब अहिले हेर्छौँ भने त्यो अघि कम्युनिकेसनको कुरा मैले हामीले इन्टरनेटको कुरा गर्दाखेरि पनि आई थिङ्क वी डिडन्ट ह्याभ मोबाइल फोन्स। हामीले क्लास 10 सँग जाँदाखेरि पनि वी डिडन्ट ह्याभ एक्सेस टु मोबाइल फोन्स। तर अहिलेको वी सी इभन 5 year old किड्स अथवा 4 वर्ष 3 वर्षको बच्चा पनि मोबाइल फोन हातमा लिएर बसिरहेको हुन्छ। सो यो एउटा पाटो भयो। सो क्यान चिल्ड्रेन बी डेभलप into good communicators in the future भनिन्छ नि। कम्युनिकेसन स्किल्स बाई बर्थ हुन्छ पनि भनिन्छ कति कति कन्टेक्स्टमा। जस्तै बाई बर्थ स्किल्स, एउटा कम्युनिकेसन स्किल्स, लिडरसिप स्किल्स लिएर कोही जन्मिन्छ पनि भनेर कतै भन्ने गरिन्छ, कतै चाहिँ त्यो डेभलप गर्नुपर्छ, कम्युनिकेसन स्किल्स पनि डेभलप गर्न सकिन्छ चिल्ड्रेनहरूमा भनेर भनिन्छ। सो वाट क्यान प्यारेन्ट्स एन्ड टिचर्स स्पेसली, अब उनीहरूकै वरिपरि त घुम्छ बाल बच्चाहरूको जीवन सुरुवाती स्टेजमा। सो त्यो के कुरामा फोकस गर्नुपर्छ? वाट शुड दे फोकस अन चिल्ड्रेन टु डेभलप देयर कम्युनिकेसन स्किल्स?
Okay. So here's what I feel. Okay, first question. Is it a skill or is it a talent? Now, talent is something that is God gifted. It is innate. त्यो जन्मिँदाखेरि नै हुन्छ. Skill is something that you can develop, that you can make, that you can become stronger at. I personally feel communication is a skill. I don't think it's a talent. Your voice might be something that God has gifted to you. Your expressions might be something that God has gifted to you, but trust you me. My job is to make people better communicators, right? I coach people. I'm coaching an American client right now who is, I think, 45, 48 years old. And every week we meet and he tries to understand his communication patterns and how he can make that better, right? So at that age also it can be learnt. So मेरो विचारमा यो definitely एउटा life त्यो इनबोर्न स्किल जस्तो अथवा इनबोर्न ट्यालेन्ट जस्तो छैन। मेरो विचारमा दिस इज अ स्किल एन्ड अ स्किल क्यान बी डेभलप्ड। यसलाई डेभलप गर्न मिल्छ। Now, how can we as teachers, as mothers, as parents, as guardians develop this skill in our children, right? There are 3 or 4 things that we can do. Number 1, make them read. Make them become amazing readers. Because when you read, you become sensitive, you understand communication a bit better, and you understand language a bit better. So it doesn't matter which language they're reading in, but just to have a grip over reading words makes your brain somehow easier to get the right word when you need it. And what happens is that in turn makes you a good communicator, a better communicator with a better flow over your thoughts and the way you speak. Right? So I think number 1 would be for us to make them adapt into this habit of reading, to make them avid readers, number 1. Number 2, communicate with them, talk to them a lot. So I don't spend very much time with my son. I have to accept. Tara, or Babu Sangu Kilda Kiri, generally I'm going to be like, okay, tell me a story. So and I'm going to be like, okay, tell me whatever, I'm going to listen to you. So he'll make up some story about some robot and then a machine and then something happened and then something else happened and whatever else. But the point is, his stories, I don't understand his stories, but at least he's speaking, at least he's sharing, at least he's imagining, at least he's stringing words together. So when I listen to him, when I give him a chance to speak, I'm like, okay, so tell me, what do you want to do today? So he'll give me some nonsense, he's going to talk a lot. I never interrupt him. I let him speak whatever it is that he wants to speak, because that way he is also using his communication skills. And the third is, when your child is speaking, to actually encourage him, like I really encourage him. So if he uses a good word, अस्ति मेरो बाबुले कुन word use गरेका थियो? Previously. Previously we did this. And I was like, wow, that's a great word. तिमीलाई कसरी थाहा पायो यो word होइन? एक दिन he said, Mama, meanwhile, we can go to school. I said, meanwhile, that's a great word. So every time I encourage him to use good words, or when he uses a good word, when I give him a pat on his back and I tell him that's a great word, he gets more encouraged to do that. So he feels that I am listening to the way he communicates and I appreciate that. And that sort of motivates him to become a better communicator. We talk a lot. Like every night before he sleeps, either he reads a book out to me or I read a book out to him, or we just lie down in bed and we talk for 10 minutes. And he'll tell me something and I'll tell him something. And it could be something really silly. It could be something like, okay, I didn't like the chocolate cake you made, it was not sweet enough, or whatever. But the point is, there is always this communication that happens, because the moment you allow a child to speak, you know what they're thinking, and you also know how they're able to string their thoughts together, which is very important according to me. So, yeah, let them speak, read out to them, appreciate and motivate them when they use good words or they use good sentences, no matter what language you're speaking in.
Yes, indeed. On this note, we would like to go into a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back after the break. Today we have with us Ms. Mannsi Agrawal, and we are discussing on the topic the art of communication. Now, going back to the discussion, the next question is regarding handling conflict and complaints. Actually, हाम्रो अर्गनाइजेसन स्पेसली हामी जस्तो प्रोफेसनल्सहरूलाई हामीले आफ्नो कार्यक्षेत्रमा डिफ्रेन्ट सिचुएसनहरू ह्यान्डल गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ कन्फ्लिक्टको सिचुएसनहरू ह्यान्डल गर्नुपर्ने सक्ने हुनसक्छ मेबी कम्प्लेन्ट्सहरू अथवा कहिले कहिले हिटेड आर्गुमेन्टको सिचुएसनहरू हुनसक्छ जसको कारणले गर्दा वी मे बी गेटिङ इन्टु सिचुएसन अफ आई मिन आउटबर्स्ट अफ एङ्गर स्ट्रेस हुनसक्छ सो यस्तो सिचुएसनहरूमा हाउ क्यान द आर्ट अफ कम्युनिकेसन अर इफेक्टिभ कम्युनिकेसन बी युज्ड टु ह्यान्डल this kind of situations?
Okay, number one, whenever somebody tells me that they might have a situation that they need help with handling in terms of a conflict and they're working for an organization, I always tell them the first thing is for you to start having or developing the right mindset. You know? When, let's say I'm working in a bank, let's say I'm working in ABC Bank or something, okay? And Sanjay comes to me and he screams at me because of bank ma ke khata ma ke problem bhasa, you know? And the first thing I have to do is understand he is not screaming at Mannsi Agrawal. He is screaming at the position Mannsi Agrawal is sitting in. मेरो कुर्सीसँग झगडा छ होइन. It is with my position, it's with my designation. The moment we are able to think like that, we are actually able to then separate our emotions from the facts that we have to say. So, the first thing that we do when we are handling conflict is we have to be able to calm ourselves down and understand that the conflict is not with me as a person, but with what I do and the position I have occupied. That is something that's extremely important. The next thing that's also very, very important is to understand exactly why the conflict is. धेरै चोटि misunderstanding पनि हुन सक्छ in the way that it's expressed. We must be careful and we must be conscious enough to understand where the conflict was, how it was caused. We must be able to have an open, honest, and very transparent conversation with the other person about what is the root of the conflict and to agree on the root of the conflict. And then, of course, it is about communicating, both of us, one person at a time, communicating, okay, this is what my expectations are, this is what I want from you to resolve it. I would say, this is what my expectations are, this is what I want from you to resolve it. So only if you're able to put all these things down without emotion, with logic, will we be able to actually resolve any kind of a communication based conflict problem. So let's say a customer comes to me with some kind of a complaint. The first thing I have to do is I have to understand he doesn't hate me. He's not doing it because of me. He's doing it because he probably has a problem with the way the company has been, right? I then have to try and without putting my personal emotions in the picture, I have to try and understand what his expectations are. I have to try and understand where exactly he thinks we're making a mistake. I have to understand where we haven't delivered. And I must be honest enough to deliver the same message to him in the right way. And I must under promise and over deliver. So let's say he wants me to do something. Let's say he wants a refund of whatever. I will say, okay, sir, the refund will come to you, but it will take 10 days. When I know 5 दिनमा काम हुन्छ, बेसी time लिने, under promise, promise लाई सानो राख्ने, delivery लाई ठुलो राख्ने, so that you can make that person happy and make them a happy customer again. So when you're dealing with conflict or you're dealing with customer service, I always tell people there are 19 steps to dealing with an angry customer. And these steps I think are really, really important, right? So whenever I talk about customer service, I always say this. One old customer is as good as 6 new customers. It takes 6 times as much money and 6 times as much investment to get one new customer as it does to keep one old customer happy. Keep your old customers happy, they will get you new business. So your communication has to be really strong to be able to do that. Ani नयाँ मान्छे अनि पुरानो मान्छेलाई पनि हैन conflict भयो कुनै तरिकाको problem भयो भने you have to separate yourself from the problem, understand it logically and technically, and then take it forward. That is one method to avoid conflict. Conflict happens the moment we start putting ourselves into the problem.
यो क्वेसनकै आन्सर दिने क्रममा यहाँले इमोसन्सको कुरा पनि जोड्नु भएको छ. इमोसन्स र इम्प्याथी भन्ने कुरा हुन त एउटा ह्युमन क्वालिटिज, इनहेरेन्ट ह्युमन क्वालिटिज नै भयो. तर इमोसन्स र एम्प्याथी यी क्वालिटिजहरू इट क्यान बी अ ब्यारियर्स अथवा त्यसले डिस्ट्र्याक्सन पनि हुन सक्छ अथवा इट क्यान अल्सो बी अ स्ट्रेन्थ हैन. So what do you think? What, according to your opinion, can emotions and empathy be a distraction to be a good communicator, or are they more like strength?
Personally, for me, my style of communication is such that my emotions and my empathy, I think, is my strength, because that helps me talk about my emotions. That helps me express myself as a woman, as a foreigner in this country, maybe as a woman, as a person who's gone through a lot in life. My emotions really make me real. My emotions make me a relatable person. My emotions make me connect to so many more people. So I think mero case ma, it would definitely be a strength rather than a weakness. And I think that emotions help us to connect with one another. So for most of us, emotions would be a strength, because if something is helping us connect, that's always a good thing. Mero tyo video viral bhayepachi, I cannot tell you how many messages I got from adult men. I'm talking about like a 50-year-old man. Baini timro video herera आँखामा आँसु आयो. How many messages? How many? 30 वर्ष भयो अमेरिकामा बस्दैछु, छोराछोरी पनि अमेरिकनै छन्, तर मेरो मन त नेपाली हो. तिम्रो भिडियो हेरेर लागिरहेछ छोराछोरीलाई नेपाल पठाउनु पर्छ, म त रोको. I know.
Mhm.
So I got these kind of messages from, like, see, for a young girl or for a woman or for an old lady to react like this is fine. For a 50-year-old man, it takes a lot of courage to send me a message like that, right?
Yeah.
It takes a lot.
Yeah.
It must have really hit him. And म त रोको, म त दुईचोटि रोको तिम्रो भिडियो हेरेर, हाम्रो नेपाल यस्तो छ त्यस्तो छ. And it was those emotions that connected. And he wrote that message to me because he felt something emotionally. So for me, and for a lot of the people who are watching my stuff, it is the emotions that connect us, because ultimately human beings are so much about our emotions, right? So many of our decisions are sometimes emotional. So I think emotions for me are definitely a strength, and it should be, or it could be, a strength for many more people. Yeah.
Yes, truly. Basically, I think this can be useful to a lot of young people who are watching us regarding, I mean, who you also have expertise regarding facing interviews अनि यहाँले धेरै सेसनहरू पनि दिनुभएको छ यो इन्टरभ्यूसँग सम्बन्धमा इफ आई ह्याड टु आस्क यु क्यान यु लिस्ट आउट इन ब्रिफ हामीसँग समय त अब हामी कार्यक्रमको अन्त्यतिर गइरहेका छौँ सो वी हेभ भेरी लेस टाइम क्यान यु लिस्ट आउट इन ब्रिफ 3 points that one has to focus on while appearing for an interview?
Number one, you have to understand the company really well. You have to understand the company really, really well. You should know everything about the company and the position for which you're applying. Number two, understand yourself really well. It's not enough to understand the job. It's also important to understand your ability and your skills and yourself and your psychograph and who you are as a person. So, for example, even if I was the best in microbiology, if tomorrow somebody makes me a microbiologist or a researcher in a lab, I'm going to hate my life, because I will not really get so much of a chance to talk to other people. I will be doing something in a machine, like in a microscope, right? So that's not who I am as a person. So you have to understand who you are as a person if you ever want to actually enjoy what you do, right? So interview mapani, if you understand yourself, only will you be able to give answers. So first, how many points do you want? I'm sorry, three, five, how many points do you want? Interview ko
Three,
barema?
three,
Three.
three,
Okay.
three.
Number one,
Madam.
understand the company and the job that you're applying for. Number two, understand yourself really well. Number three, your body language and your confidence plays a bigger part than you imagine, and your mark sheet and your resume plays a smaller part that you imagine. So you have to start thinking about it in that framework. So when I guide people to appear for interviews, I do that a lot. One-on-one training धेरै हुन्छ. College interview ma pani haina, people are applying for different colleges abroad and they don't really know how to speak. So I really mentor them, I really coach them on how they should speak for such interviews. I always tell them that, hamro mark sheet, hamro resume, hamro marks, it does play a part, yes, but it's not the most important thing. If somebody walks in for an interview with me and they know themselves, the job and the skills they're required for that particular job well enough, I will keep them in spite of the fact that they may not have the most number of marks or the exact degree that's required. Because we're moving from a world that is degree based to skill based and aptitude based, right? And personality based. So पहिला के हुन्थ्यो हाम्रो ड्याडीहरूको टाइममा, if you have a degree you can do that job, right? मेरो टाइममा, I'm talking about 10 years ago, let's say 10, 12 years ago, it was skill based. If I had the skill, I can do the job. अब के भइरहेछ and where we're moving is, you don't even necessarily need to have the right skill. If you have the right attitude and the right willingness to learn, and you're the right kind of person, they will keep you and train you on the job. किनकि job को requirements पनि छुट्टै छुट्टै खालको हुन भयो. So I always tell people your confidence and your attitude is more important than you can imagine, because now learning can be anywhere, anytime. You switch on the internet, you learn whatever the hell you want, right? So त्यो कारणले it is not important कि सही degree हुनुपर्छ. You can switch, you can be more mobile, you can be more flexible. एउटा प्रोफेसनमा लाइफलङ बस्नु पर्दैन, which is why you need to be able to express more confidence, more enthusiasm, and the right attitude when you're going in for an interview than anything else.
That's right. We have a question from Tirsana Bhandari,
Okay.
who asks, what kind of communication is more effective? How can we know that which kind of communication will be more effective when we meet someone for the first time?
Okay. Thank you so much, Tirsana, for your question. I think that's a great question. What kind of communication will be more effective is when you meet somebody for the first time. So there are two situations. One would be a professional scenario where you're looking at making them a professional contact, and one would be a social scenario. In case you're meeting somebody for the first time professionally, please be sure that the way you introduce yourself is going to have a huge impact. If I tell you that, hi, my name is Mannsi and I live in Kathmandu, I am a speaker, that's one way. On the other hand, if I tell you, hi, I'm Mannsi, I'm a very passionate speaker, I've done a TED talk, I'm also a distinguished Toastmaster, and I love customizing trainings, and I'm the one who made that video, 7 Reasons to Never Visit Nepal. Your image of me would be different, and the impact that I create on you would be different. So, what we need to understand is what is the purpose for which I'm communicating. If you are communicating professionally, let's assume this is professional, you must be able to introduce yourself by giving some of the most impactful points about you that is going to make the other person remember you. That's important. The other thing is very important to engage the other person in a conversation, to get the other person to talk to you. And how you can do that is by asking a lot of questions and being genuinely interested in what they do, and by listening to them, because that way they feel like having a conversation with you. It's not a one-way traffic. You are having a conversation, and that's a great thing. That's how you can create new contacts, you can increase your network, you can have more friends, whatever it is.
अहिलेको कन्टेक्स्टमा हाम्रो जस्तो खालको लाइफस्टाइल छ अनि जस्तो किसिमको हाम्रो प्रोफेसनल लाइफ पर्सनल लाइफ एकातिर हामीले लिएर हिँडिरहेको हुन्छौँ अनि त्यसको कारणले गर्दाखेरि आई बिन आस्किङ दिस क्वेसन टु मोस्ट अफ आवर गेस्ट रिगार्डिङ स्ट्रेसको कुरामा बिकज हाम्रो अब हुन्छ नि मैले यो हेल्थमा पनि धेरै असर गरेर आउँछ हाम्रो स्ट्रेसले हाम्रो पर्सनल लाइफमा प्रोफेसनल लाइफमा रिलेसनसिप्समा यो यसले धेरै इफेक्ट गरेर आउँछ एन्ड यु हेभ बिन इन्भल्भ विथ सो मेनी अर्गनाइजेसन यति धेरै कामहरू पनि यहाँले गरिराख्नु भएको छ obviously and you have been juggling between your personal family life with your child on one side and your professional life as well on the other side. So obviously I'm pretty sure that you also may have come across situations where the situations are very stressful. So how do you handle stress? तपाईको लागि what are your stress busters?
I love to watch mindless movies. So a mindless movie for me would not be a bad movie. It would just be a movie that I watched so many times that अब मलाई त्यो storyline मा मतलब छैन, मलाई केही मतलब छैन. Without actually watching the movie I'm watching it. You know what I mean? I don't have to pay attention to the movie. It's just there, it's happening, and I'm just sitting in front. So for me, a stress buster is good food, very good food. I love great food. I love watching movies that I've watched many, many times because those movies give me a chance to switch off my brain and to just enjoy whatever is happening. So I really like movies like that, which are complete stress busters for me. So I love doing that. I also love traveling. This year has been really bad for travel, really bad for all my travel plans this year. Let's see how that goes. But I love traveling. I also love photography. I'm actually a professional photographer as well. So, but I really, really enjoy, I think, cooking, eating, watching movies, traveling, photography. Yeah.
That's lovely. यो कार्यक्रमको हामी लगभग लगभग यसै आन्सरको साथमा धेरै अन्त्यतर्फ नै हामी अगाडि अगाडि बढिरहेका छौँ यो तपाईँको स्टोरी पनि हामी सुन्न चाहन्छौँ यु बिन इन्भल्भ विथ सो मेनी अर्गनाइजेसन यति धेरै कार्यक्रमहरू यहाँ इन्भल्भ हुनुहुन्छ ट्रेनिङ्सहरूमा विभिन्न सङ्घ संस्थामा इन्भल्भ हुनुहुन्छ एन्ड यु हेभ बिन स्पेसली फोकसिङ अन द आर्ट अफ कम्युनिकेसन आजको हाम्रो यो सेसन पनि आर्ट अफ कम्युनिकेसनसँग सम्बन्धित नै रहेको छ सो वी वुड लाइक टु हियर यो स्टोरी हुन्छ हामीसँग एकदम लिमिटेड समय बाँकी छ केही मिनट मात्र बाँकी छ अब यही समयभित्रमा नै वी वुड लाइक टु हियर यो in short your story how you evolved as a communicator अथवा अनि यसै कन्टेक्स्टमा how much would you rate your skills out of 10?
See, I can't rate my skills. That's like telling me to rate my own sheet in school. That's not possible, right? So that is something that I'm guessing has to come from other people. What I can do is, yes, I can tell you my story and I can tell you what I did. So I was always a great reader in school. I used to love communicating. I was also extremely lucky that I went to a school where communication was very encouraged. My family is also such where my dad and mom and me used to sit and talk a lot. So हाम्रो परिवारमा चाहिँ एकदम कुरा गर्ने बानी छ के everyone speaks like my father and me we talk a lot हिजो हामी we had a call and धेरै दिन भइसक्यो थियो ड्याडीसँग कुरा भएको थिएन so I think we spoke for half an hour on the phone so we talk a lot we share everything right So I come from a family where there's a lot of conversation. And I grew up like that. I went to a school, again, where they encouraged conversation. After that, I came to Kathmandu. I got into Toastmasters, again, more conversation, more communication. And then one thing led to another. Also, I feel for me, reading has been a major part. So I read a lot. I don't read novels anymore. I don't read books anymore. For me, it's mostly reading things on the internet these days, but I still read a lot. And reading gives you a lot of different ways of thinking and a lot of different ways of communicating. So I think Merulagi Tyo, that's been my journey pretty much. Yeah. School, home, Toastmasters, work.
मैले यो क्वेसन धेरै नै गेस्टहरूलाई सोध्दै पनि गरेको छु स्पेसली अल्सो बिकज आई अल्सो लभ रिडिङ अनि यहाँले नि मेन्सन गरिसक्नु भएको छ यु आर अल्सो मच इन्टु रिडिङ बुक्स दो अहिले पछिल्लो टाइममा यु आर नट इन्टु रिडिङ नोभल्स एन्ड अदर बुक्स मोर अफ इन्टरनेट स्टफ्स तर पनि हुन्छ नि मैले धेरै दर्शकहरूलाई सोध्ने गरेको छु अनि मोस्ट अफ माई फ्रेन्ड्स एन्ड माई आई मिन पिपल हु फलो us on Orators House, they also ask for suggestions regarding books. So, can you recommend some of your favorite books to you to our viewers?
So there's a book called The Secret. It's a very old book. I think it released in 2005 or something, or maybe even before that. I came to know about it around that time. That's a great book to read. There is a book called The One Thing, which I read very recently. That's a great book as well. These are both in the self-help genre. I really, really like them. Apart from that, if you talk about fiction, just because fiction is fun, I read this amazing book called The... So here's the problem. I'm very bad with names. Okay, so it's a book by this lady, and she talks about the Mughal Empire and the women of the Mughal Empire. Okay. So for me, that is great. Like fiction, that kind of fiction is great because it's culture, it's history, it's a lot of that. But in terms of self-help, I would think it would have to be The Secret and The One Thing. These are my two favorite books as of now that I can think of. Yeah.
Both of those are really wonderful books. I think our viewers can read those books and त्यसले पनि obviously यो हाम्रो लिस्टले पनि हाम्रो भ्युअर्सहरूलाई राइट बुक चुज गर्न पनि हेल्प गर्नेछ भन्ने मैले विश्वास लिएको छु एन्ड दिस आन्सर ब्रिङ्स अस टु द एन्ड अफ द सो मैले यो कुरा हामीले युजली मैले हाम्रो सेसनमा यो अन्त्यमा एउटा सेपरेट सेक्सन पनि मैले इन्क्लुड गरेको छु विच आई थिङ्क आई हेभ नट मेन्सन्ड विथ मान्छेजी दिस इज अ सिक्रेट ऱ्यापिड फायर राउन्ड अनि वी डोन्ट वी rapid fire round and we have 10 questions and you have very less time अब हामीसँग केही मिनेट मात्र बाँकी छ सो यो rapid fire round को 10 वटा क्वेशन को लागि we have just 1 minute I hope that Mannsi ji will answer our questions very honestly and very quickly किनकि हरेक क्वेशन को लागि you don't have time to think you just have to answer promptly भनौँ न हरेक क्वेशन को लागि you have at the most 5 seconds 2 3 4 5 and just to the next question so rapid fire round ma सुरु गर्न जाँदैछु with the first question can I start?
Sure.
Okay, the first question goes like this. What is love?
My son.
That's great. What would you do if you had just an hour to live?
I would go to Paris.
If you could have a superpower, what would that be?
To be invisible.
Amazing. If you could meet some celebrity, dead or alive, who would that be?
Okay, this I have the answer, but I don't know if I should say it. Okay, so Akshay Khanna. I had him when I was a child in class 6. I was madly in love with him. Yeah, Akshay Khanna. Oh my God.
He's a fine actor. I love him too.
Okay,
I mean, your favorite movie, I think it's definitely of Akshay Khanna.
No,
favorite
not.
movie?
No.
Okay.
Zindagi Milegi Na Dobara or Parinita. Both are Hindi movies, Parinita or Zindagi Milegi Na Dobara.
Yeah, great movies. Your favorite food?
Momo, papri chaat, pav bhaji.
No Bengali dish?
No, because I'm not from a Bengali family. So we did not eat Bengali food at home all the time. Although there's one thing that's amazing, luchi torkari and aloo chop, but they are not in my top 3 favorite. Momo, papri chaat and pav bhaji. Yeah, oh my God, yeah.
What turns you off?
People who don't know how to be nice to other people. Like people who are just rude, it's really, I don't like it.
Yeah. To मलाई पनि, if you could talk to the Prime Minister of Nepal, KP Oli, what would you talk about?
Wow, this is nothing I've ever thought of. I would tell him, please watch my video.
So, three of your personal things which you would want to have with you on a deserted island.
A book and a pen, but I'm going to count that as one. You can't count that as two. Okay, so a book and a pen, my camera, and my phone.
That's a good list. And the last question, I don't know if this is your tough हुन सक्छ तपाईको लागि, but I hope you will give a very prompt and a very honest answer. Kolkata or Kathmandu?
Hey, that's not fair. You can't do this all the time. Last week also the same thing happened.
I don't know.
You know, it's so mean because no, I can't choose because Kolkata is Bari and Calcutta and Kathmandu is Ghar. It's like Calcutta is where I grew up.
Yeah,
Calcutta is maybe who I am, but Kathmandu is shaping me further, and Kathmandu is giving me a chance to work. So that's just impossible. It's there's no fair way to answer this. But if I
right.
no, there's no way that I can answer. It's like 50-50. There's not even 50.01 like anywhere. It's no, both are like love.
Okay, I'll take that. With that answer, we have come to the end of the show. अनि यहाँको सम्पूर्ण अनेस्ट आन्सरहरूको लागि यहाँलाई धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद छ। हुन त मैले अन्य गेस्टहरूलाई पनि भन्ने गरेको छु, we don't have a coffee hamper right now for this rapid fire round, but someday definitely we will have a cup of coffee together, we hopefully भन्ने मैले आशा लिएको छु। अनि आजको यो सेसनमा यति राम्रोसँग यति जली यति रमाइलो रूपमा यहाँ प्रस्तुत भएर समय दिएर आजको यति धेरै सेसन हुनुको बावजुद पनि लगातार 3टा सेसन यहाँले आज एटेन्ड गरिसक्नु भएको छ, त्यसको बावजुद पनि हाम्रो लागि पनि समय जुटाइदिएर यहाँ ओरेटर्स हस्पिटलको यो मञ्चमा उपस्थित भइदिनु भएकोमा आई वुड रियली लाइक टु थ्याङ्क मानसीजीलाई म धेरै धेरै धन्यवाद दिन चाहन्छु। ओरेटर्स हस्पिटलको तर्फबाट वी हेभ बिन चेजिङ यु अराउन्ड मेबी 3-4 हप्तादेखि हामीले यहाँसँग कुरा गर्ने प्रयास हामीले यहाँसँग समय लिएका थियौँ। अनि यहाँले व्यस्त समयको बावजुद पनि वी नो द्याट यु आर सो बिजी, अनि यसको बावजुद पनि यहाँले समय जुटाइदिनु भएकोमा वी आर रियली थ्याङ्कफुल फ्रम द कोर अफ आवर हार्ट। अनि अन्त्यमा यहाँलाई केही भन्न छ भने मेबी देयर आर सम थिङ्स विच आई मिस टु आस्क, केही कुराहरू यहाँलाई भन्न छ भने हाम्रो अडियन्सहरूलाई अनि हामीलाई केही कुराहरू, द फ्लोर इज योर्स।
Thank you so much, Sanjay ji. I just have two things to say, really two things to say. Number one, नेपालमा सबैजनाको लागि होइन, मलाई यति अपार माया देखाउनु भएकोमा धन्यवाद. I don't know if I can ever pay back what I have got from you. I don't know if I am capable of doing anything. I don't know what I have done to deserve any of this, but you all have been so kind to me that for me, every time I think about it, I get really emotional. So thank you so much, everybody, everyone who's watching this, who's from Nepal, who's sent me a message or sent me, hello, Didi, thank you for the video or something like that. I may not have replied, but I genuinely, truly mean that I'm really grateful. Thank you so much. Malai itti maya dinu bhasa. I never expected it. And number two, please keep on supporting me. I will be making a lot more videos about Nepal, about my life in Nepal, maybe about other places as well. And I really want that you all can be a part of this journey with me. For me, it will mean the world if you all are with me, because you all are my strength. There's nothing else. For jati ne sikhu, jati ne garsu, it's because you all are standing behind me, not behind me. You all are standing with me. You all are my superpower. So for everyone who's watching, for everyone who shares my videos, for everyone who is with me, you are a part of my journey now. Thank you so much. Just be with me and let's all work together. Tomorrow also, or I'll be shooting in different parts of Kathmandu. I think I'll announce it where I'll be shooting. If you can come, come, because together we can do this. Together, this is a mission we all have to take. No one else is going to do it for us. I'm on this journey. Be a part of it. Be with me. Be my strength. I'm going to be your strength as long as I can. Thank you so much.
थ्याङ्क यू सो मच मान्छेजी। म यो ओल्टर्स हस्पिटलबाट यहाँलाई पनि with all your 7 reasons why not to visit different places, including Nepal. को भिडियो पछि भक्तपुर आएको छ म बुटोलको हाम्रो ओल्ड सालको तर्फबाट I would like to invite you to Butwal. Maybe hopefully we can do a video on 7 reasons why you should not visit Butwal. Hopefully होइन त्यो पनि त्यसको लागि पनि म यहाँलाई बुटोलमा इन्भाइट गर्न चाहन्छु. What you have been doing is really great. नेपालको बुहारी भनेर यहाँलाई भन्ने गरिन्छ र यहाँले जुन काम गरेर राख्नु भएको छ स्पेसली ट्रेनिङको लागि आज पनि हाम्रो आर्ट अफ कम्युनिकेसनको टपिकमा हामीले यति यो प्रोडक्टिभ डिस्कसन आज गर्न पायौँ र त्यो प्रोडक्टिभ मात्रै होइन इट वाज रियली इन्जोएबल मेरो लागि पनि धेरै यो राम्रो एक्सपिरियन्स रियली रमाइलो एक्सपिरियन्स रमाइलो डिस्कसन एउटा लर्निङ एक्सपिरियन्स पनि मलाई भएको छ त्यसको लागि आई होप हाम्रो सम्पूर्ण दर्शकहरूले सम्पूर्ण ओरेटर्स हस्पिटललाई फलो गर्ने ओरेटर्स मेम्बर्सहरू र दर्शकहरूले पनि आई थिङ्क दे अल हेभ इन्जोयड आवर डिस्कसन टुडे विथ द्याट मैले फेरि पनि ओरेटर्स हस्पिटलको तर्फबाट यहाँलाई धन्यवाद दिँदै ओरेटर्स हस्पिटलको म अब अन्त्यमा म क्लोजिङतर्फ जान चाहन्छु. ओरेटर्स हाउस बुटोलको आयोजना थिङ्क एन्ड ग्रो एजुकेसन बुटोलको प्रस्तुति नेक्स्ट एजुकेसन कन्सल्टेन्सी बुटोल एजुकेसन पार्टनरको रूपमा रहेको यो छलफल श्रृङ्खलामा पोसिबल फाउन्डेसनको प्राविधिक सहयोग र तत्त्व सल्युसनको पनि सहयोग रहेको छ. आजको थ्याङ्क्स स्पेसली टु द गेस्ट अफ द डे अगेन the very amazing personality, Miss Mannsi Agrawal, and thanks to all the Orators House Butwal members, regular Amla and Tarsakaru, youth, intellectuals, and everyone who have been watching us on live on Facebook and YouTube platforms. We shall meet again in our next session with a new topic and a new guest. तबसम्मको लागि आजको सेसनको प्रस्तुता म सञ्जय सिंह केसी र हाम्रो गेस्ट द भेरी ब्युटिफुल एन्ड अमेजिङ मान्छे अग्रवाललाई पनि बिदा दिनुहोस्. धन्यवाद. जय देश.